Book 5 in the SmileyChild series, Sadie Shows the Way by Dawn Leslie. Carlos and his family lived next door to Renee, the dental hygienist at the SmileyChild Dental Clinic. Every morning, Renee would clip leashes onto the collars of her two dogs, Sadie and Scruffy, and walk them downtown and into the clinic, where they spent the day greeting the kids that came for their appointments. Carlos loved the dogs, and whenever Renee and her family went on vacation, she asked him to feed them and take them for a walk after school. A few years ago, when Carlos was 5 years old, he fell off the tire swing that was hanging from a tree in the garden. He banged his chin so hard that he bit his bottom lip and cut it very badly. His dad heard him crying and rushed out of the house to see what had happened. When he saw how his lip was bleeding, he covered it with a cold, wet cloth and immediately took him to the emergency department at the hospital. The doctors and nurses were very nice, but the cut on his lip really stung, and when they removed the cloth to examine it, Carlos began to cry even louder. He was so afraid they would hurt it more that he tried to wiggle off the table he was laying on, and the nurses had to hold him tightly. They gave him some medicine to make him a bit sleepy, and once he was calm and quiet, the doctor put some stitches in his lip so that it would heal properly. Ever since that time, Carlos did not like other people touching his mouth. Before bedtime, he would allow his mom to check that he was brushing and flossing his teeth properly, but each time she suggested that they go to the SmileyChild clinic for a checkup, he felt afraid. "Mom, I will just take very good care of my teeth, and if I clean them properly every day, I won't ever have to go to the dentist," he told her. His mom knew that once Carlos was a bit older, he would understand that it was also important to have his teeth cleaned and checked by the dentist and a hygienist, so she would just give him a hug and continue to make sure that he cleaned them well. One Saturday morning, he was riding his skateboard close to his house when Sadie saw him coming and ran as fast as she could through her gate and across the road to see him. She was so excited that she didn't notice that a car was driving straight toward her, and it bumped right into her front leg. She yelped loudly and tried to get to Carlos, but her leg hurt too much and she couldn't move it properly. The driver of the car ran to Renee's house and knocked on her door, but no one was home. Carlos could see that Sadie was very scared, and he stayed with her while the driver went to get his mom from their house. He stroked her soft fur and spoke in a quiet voice, telling her that soon everything would be all right. His mom and the other driver put Sadie carefully onto a blanket in the backseat of the car, and with Carlos strapped in safely beside her, drove slowly to the animal clinic. Dr. Jackson and her assistant lifted Sadie onto the examination table and gently felt her leg to see if it was cut or if any bones were broken. Carlos stood by her head and stroked her face. He could see how afraid she was, and he remembered exactly how he had felt when the doctor at the hospital was fixing the cut on his lip. He saw how kindly everyone was looking after the frightened dog, and he tried his very best to let her know that no one was trying to hurt her. Luckily, the x-ray they took showed that no bones were broken, so Dr. Jackson wrapped Sadie's sore leg with a red bandage, and Carlos and his mom drove her home. Renee and Scruffy were waiting at the front gate as they pulled into the driveway. Sadie hopped out of the car, holding her damaged leg in the air, and Renee hugged her tightly. "Thank you so much for looking after her, Carlos," she said. "Back when Sadie was a puppy, she was bitten by another dog and had to go to the animal clinic to have a cut on her neck stitched up. Ever since then, whenever I take her for her checkup, she is very afraid." "Really?" asked Carlos, surprised. "I could tell she was nervous, but she was so good while Dr. Jackson was checking her leg. She didn't even try to run away." "I think that's because you were with her," smiled Renee. "She could tell that you and the others were just trying to help. Whenever we're sick or we need a checkup, it's important to go even if we're afraid. Probably, just like it was for Sadie, it really won't be as bad as we think it will be." That night, after Carlos brushed and flossed his teeth, he called his mom into his bedroom. "Mom, I've decided that we should make an appointment with Renee at SmileyChild. I really want to take good care of my teeth, and I guess if Sadie can go to the vet even when she's scared, then I can go to the dental clinic too." The next week, Carlos arrived at SmileyChild to have his teeth cleaned and checked. He felt a little nervous when he and his mum entered the waiting area, but when he saw Scruffy and Sadie waiting on their pillows beside the front desk, he ran over to say hello. Renee took him into the examination room and showed him all of the equipment she would use to clean his teeth. She promised that she would let him know everything she was doing, and that if at any time he needed to speak with her or just take a little break, all he had to do was raise his hand. She asked if he would like to watch a movie or listen to some music while she did her work, but Carlos decided he would like to pay attention to what was happening inside his mouth at this time. Renee very gently cleaned, polished, and examined his teeth for any caries, and by the time Dr. Rose came in to check the x-rays she had taken, Carlos was feeling more and more comfortable. He sat between Sadie and Scruffy while Renee took their picture to add to the Teeth and Tails poster on the wall, and when she gave him a little card with the date for his next appointment, along with a new toothbrush, he realized that visiting SmileyChild really was a good thing to do. The end.